You see, the truth is uncomfortable, and that's why it often goes untold. But here it is. Society doesn't want you to get rich. Now, I'm not talking about a conspiracy, no secret room with a plan on the wall. I'm talking about the structure, the rhythm, the everyday flow of life that's been designed not for your freedom, but for your compliance. It's not personal, it's systematic. And until you see it, you're playing someone else's game. From the very beginning, they teach you how to fit in, not how to stand out. You're told to be quiet, follow the rules, get a good job, pay your taxes, don't ask too many questions, and definitely don't take risks. Why? Because rich thinkers don't make good employees. Rich minds challenge the system. And the system, well, it prefers predictability. You were trained to survive, not thrive. You were handed a script and told this is the path. Go to school, get the degree, find a job, work for 40 years, retire on what's left, and pray it's enough. But who does that path serve? It doesn't build wealth, it builds dependence. Dependence on paychecks, on pensions, on promises. And all the while, you're taught that money is evil, ambition is greed, and rich people must have cheated to get ahead. Isn't that strange? You're told to admire success, but you're also told to be suspicious of it. Society celebrates the athlete, the actor, the CEO, but tries to convince you that your own financial dreams are unrealistic. Why? Because the moment you believe it's possible for you, you stop settling. You start learning. You invest in your mind, your skills, your future. And when you do that, you become dangerous to the system, not violent, powerful. You become free. But freedom takes courage. It takes the courage to unlearn, to walk a road where there is no guaranteed salary at the end of the month. It takes the courage to fail in front of others, to stand alone when everyone else is sitting. Because when you chase wealth the right way, by providing value, by growing yourself, by becoming a person of service and discipline, you'll face resistance. Not just from others, but from inside yourself. The programming is deep. That little voice will say, "Who are you to think you can be rich? Answer it boldly. Who am I not to?" Don't misunderstand. Getting rich is not about money. It's about options. It's about time. It's about not asking permission to live the life you know you're capable of living. Wealth is the fruit, but mindset is the soil. And society doesn't water that soil. It paves over it with fear and distraction. You have to dig, turn off the noise. Stop looking at what the masses are doing. Look at what the few are doing. The ones who read instead of scroll. The ones who wake up with a purpose. The ones who trade comfort for growth. These are the ones society tries to silence because they remind the rest of us of what's possible. And here's the catch. Once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to sleep. And that's good, because now it's your turn to break the cycle. Not just for you, but for everyone watching you. Your kids, your friends, your community. When you rise, you give others permission to rise. And that's how the world really changes. One awakened soul at a time. So no, society doesn't want you to get rich. But that doesn't matter, because now you do. And once you decide, nothing and no one can stop you. From the moment we take our first steps into the world, society begins its quiet work. It doesn't shout its intentions, it doesn't come with a warning sign, but its influence is there, subtle, persistent, and powerful. You're told how to behave, how to think, and most importantly, how to stay within the lines. The message is simple. Follow the path. Don't question too much, and everything will be fine. But that path isn't built to make you wealthy. It's built to make you manageable. It's not designed to expand your thinking, it's structured to contain it. They want you to be just educated enough to do the job, but not so educated that you start asking, why am I doing this job in the first place? You go to school, and what do they teach you? Memorize this, repeat that, pass the test. There's little room for creativity, barely any encouragement for independent thought, and almost no training on money, freedom, or personal development. They don't teach you how to build wealth, how to invest, how to develop the mindset of a leader or an entrepreneur. Instead, you're taught how to be a good employee, how to clock in on time, follow instructions, and stay in your lane. That's not education for empowerment. That's programming for compliance. It's not about unlocking your potential. It's about making you fit into a system that runs best when you don't question it. From a young age, ambition is trimmed down to what's acceptable. If you dream too big, you're told to be realistic. If you try to take risks, they say you're being reckless. If you want to build something outside the norm, you're warned of failure. You're not encouraged to think freely. You're taught to seek safety. Safety in a job, safety in routine, safety in staying where you are. But safety, when taken too far, becomes a cage. And most people live their entire lives in that cage, never realizing the door was open the whole time. You're surrounded by voices telling you what success should look like. Get a degree, get a job, buy a house, work until you're 65, then finally, if there's anything left in the tank, you can enjoy a bit of freedom. But by then, the best years are behind you. That plan doesn't lead to wealth. It leads to survival. And survival isn't the same as living. It's not the same as building something of your own, taking control of your time, and deciding what your life will look like. Society doesn't want thinkers. It wants followers. It wants people who will sit quietly in line, do their tasks, and not rock the boat. Because if too many people start thinking for themselves, start building wealth, start designing their own lives, that disrupts the order. That threatens the comfort of the system. So the messages are everywhere. Stay humble, don't be greedy, money isn't everything. They sound noble on the surface, but underneath, they reinforce limitation. They reinforce the idea that it's better to shrink than to grow, that it's better to settle than to strive. But what if the opposite were true? What if your growth, your ambition, your pursuit of wealth, done ethically and with purpose, was the very thing the world needed more of? Society rewards people who follow instructions. But wealth is not a reward for obedience. Wealth is a consequence of vision, of discipline, of courage. The kind of courage that comes from thinking differently, acting boldly, and believing that you don't have to live the same story everyone else is living, but before any of that can happen, you have to break free from the idea that fitting in is the goal. Because when you're busy trying to fit in, you'll never stand out. And if you don't stand out, you won't rise. The system we live in was built to function smoothly, not to make individuals rich. It rewards those who show up on time, follow the instructions, and don't question authority. The moment you step out of line, the moment you ask why, the system begins to resist you. It's not built for the rebel, the dreamer, the innovator. It's built for the obedient. The structure runs like a well-oiled machine as long as everyone plays their part. But here's the truth most never see. Playing your part too well means you'll never get ahead. The rules were written by those who already won, and they were written in a way that ensures you keep playing while they keep profiting. You're told to chase security, not success. The emphasis is always on stability. Get a job with benefits, stay long enough to retire, and don't take risks. But security is a mask for control. If they can convince you that staying safe is more important than growing, then you'll never leave the box they put you in. And inside that box, they offer just enough rewards to keep you from leaving. A steady paycheck, a yearly raise, a title change that sounds impressive, but doesn't bring freedom. These are the rewards for obedience. But the true rewards, the kind that bring real wealth and time freedom, those go to the ones who choose to write their own rules. When someone works overtime, never complains, meets every deadline, they're called a good worker. And yes, there's honor in hard work, but there's a difference between working hard and building something of your own. The system doesn't teach you how to create, how to build, or how to invest. It teaches you how to show up, how to perform, and how to remain dependent. The moment you start thinking about passive income, about scaling, about owning instead of earning, that's when you step out of the reward zone, because now you're not dependent. Now you're not easy to manage, and that's not what the system wants. You'll notice that the people who get ahead aren't always the hardest working. They're often the ones who saw the pattern, who figured out that the reward isn't in playing the game better. It's in playing a different game altogether. They stopped chasing promotions and started building equity. They stopped trading hours for money and started creating systems that worked for them. And the moment they did, the system stopped clapping for them because they became independent. And independence isn't rewarded with applause in a system built on control. Obedience is comfortable. It gives you the illusion of progress. You climb the ladder, but the ladder belongs to someone else. You celebrate milestones, but the path was never yours. The more obedient you are, the more the system praises you, but those praises are just golden chains. You're trapped in a cycle of doing more for less and calling it success. Meanwhile, the ones who broke free, the ones who challenged the I narrative, they're living on their own terms. Not because they were lucky, not because they cheated, but because they saw through the reward system and decided they wanted something more. The system doesn't encourage personal growth unless it benefits the structure. You're trained to develop just enough to be useful, not enough to be free. The real growth, the kind that leads to wealth, begins when you start asking the questions no one else is asking, when you stop waiting for permission, when you realize that the rewards society offers are designed to keep you in place, not to set you free. Wealth doesn't come from doing what everyone else is doing. It doesn't come from following the standard script or fitting neatly into the roles handed to you. It begins the moment you step outside of traditional thinking and start asking different questions. While most people are busy repeating what they've been taught, the few who build real wealth are the ones who challenge the foundation of those teachings. They understand that if the majority were right, then the majority would be rich. But the reality is that most people struggle financially, not because they're lazy or incapable, but because they've been conditioned to think in ways that limit them. They believe in rules that keep them small. They follow advice that was never designed to help them grow beyond average. Traditional thinking says, go to school, get a degree, find a secure job, work hard for decades, and retire with enough to survive. But if that model worked, we wouldn't see so many people in their 60s still stressed about money. The truth is, traditional thinking is outdated. The economy has changed, the world has changed, but the system keeps feeding people the same old plan. And people keep following it, not because it works, but because it's familiar, because stepping outside of it feels risky. But the real risk is staying trapped in a system that doesn't evolve with the times. The longer you stay inside that mindset, the harder it becomes to see what's possible. The path to wealth begins when you start thinking independently, when you stop looking for approval and start looking for truth. You begin to question the value of time, the meaning of work, the concept of money itself. You start realizing that trading hours for dollars has a ceiling, but ideas have no limits. Traditional thinkers work harder. Wealth builders think smarter. They study patterns. They observe trends. They invest in things that grow while they sleep. They don't wait for someone to tell them when to earn, how much to earn, or when they can take a break. They build lives that allow them to choose. Most people believe you need money to make money, but that's a trap. What you really need is understanding. You need perspective. You need the courage to see opportunities where others see obstacles. Wealth is not just about money. It's about the mindset that creates it. And that mindset is incompatible with traditional thinking. Traditional thinking avoids risk. It fears failure. It clings to stability, even when that stability is slowly draining away your potential. But those who build wealth embrace failure as feedback. They understand that growth comes through discomfort, not in spite of it. If you follow the crowd, you get what the crowd gets. And what the crowd gets is average. Average income, average lifestyle, average freedom. But the people who break through, who live life on their own terms. They stopped thinking traditionally a long time ago. They stopped asking what's normal and started asking what's possible. They don't wait for the perfect time. They create the time. They don't wait for permission. They give themselves the green light because they understand that traditional thinking may keep you safe, but it will never make you wealthy. Stepping away from the norm doesn't mean you disrespect it. It means you recognize its limitations. It means you understand that real change, real freedom, and real wealth require a new way of looking at the world. One that isn't handed to you in a classroom or on a corporate ladder. One that you have to discover for yourself. And once you do, everything begins to shift. The questions you ask change. The people you listen to change. The risks you take become intentional, not reckless. Because now you're not chasing what others told you was valuable. You're building something that's truly yours. Most people live their entire lives following rules they never wrote, holding beliefs they never questioned, and chasing goals that were never truly their own. They operate on a set of assumptions handed down by parents, teachers, and society. Assumptions that were meant to keep them safe, not successful. You were taught to play it safe, follow the guidelines, and avoid failure at all costs. But that path rarely leads to freedom. If you want to be truly free, financially, mentally, emotionally, you have to be willing to unlearn what you've been taught. You have to dismantle the comfortable lies that have kept you where you are and replace them with uncomfortable truths that can take you where you want to go. Unlearning is not easy. It's not glamorous. It's not something you can do in a weekend, seminar, or a motivational burst. It's painful. It's confusing. It's the process of peeling away layers of beliefs that have defined your identity. You've been told that job security is the highest priority, that climbing the corporate ladder is the ultimate achievement, and that retirement at 65 is the finish line to strive for. But who decided that? Who benefits from you believing that story? Because it certainly isn't you. It's the system that benefits when you play small. It's the structure that thrives when you stay in place. Every time you question a rule you've lived by, you're reclaiming a piece of your own power. When you start unlearning, you begin to see the world through new eyes. You notice how often people settle for less because they believe that's all they deserve. You notice how fear is used to keep people obedient. Fear of being broke, fear of being judged, fear of failure. These fears are taught early and reinforced often. But what if you were taught the wrong fears? What if the real fear should be staying in a life you don't love, staying stuck in routines that don't grow you, staying silent when your heart is screaming for more? The moment you flip that script, everything changes. You stop fearing discomfort and start fearing mediocrity. Unlearning means recognizing that success isn't one size fits all. You don't have to follow the timeline everyone else follows. You don't have to live in the same patterns as your parents or peers. You don't have to accept the idea that wealth is for others. But to reach that point, you must challenge every belief that's been passed to you without examination. If you were told that money is the root of all evil, unlearn it. If you were told that rich people are selfish, unlearn it. If you were taught that your dreams are unrealistic, unlearn it. Because the truth is, those beliefs were never about protecting you. They were about controlling you. You weren't born to be ordinary. You weren't created to live by someone else's script. But as long as you're stuck in the old thinking, you'll keep producing old results. And the hardest part is that traditional thinking often feels right, because it's what everyone else is doing. But that's exactly the trap. When everyone is doing something, we assume it must be correct. But in reality, what's common isn't always wise, and what's accepted isn't always true. Unlearning allows you to break free from that illusion. It gives you the clarity to see what's really possible and the courage to pursue it. You can't build a new life with old instructions. You can't create freedom while still clinging to chains disguised as security. The moment you start to unlearn is the moment you begin to rewrite your life. You begin to ask new questions, you begin to seek new answers, and slowly you step into the version of yourself that was always there, waiting underneath the noise, waiting underneath the fear, waiting for you to remember who you really are. Every day, noise surrounds you. It comes from the media, from your friends, your co-workers, even your own family. It's in the conversations you overhear, the advice you didn't ask for, and the constant stream of content you scroll through. And the message is almost always the same. Follow the crowd, do what's normal, stay comfortable. But if you want something different, if you want to break free from the ordinary and live with purpose, you have to tune that noise out. You have to rise above it, because that noise is not designed to guide you to greatness. It's designed to keep you distracted, comfortable, and small. And as long as you're listening to it, you'll never hear your own voice clearly enough to lead yourself. The people who create extraordinary lives don't wait for someone to show them the way. They become their own guide. They don't need constant validation. They don't need permission to pursue what matters to them. They've trained themselves to trust their instincts, to listen to their inner voice, even when the world is telling them they're crazy. That kind of leadership starts within. It starts with self-respect, self-discipline, and self-direction. Because if you can't lead yourself, someone else will. And that someone might not have your best interests in mind. It could be a boss, a company, a culture, or even a habit that leads you instead. But when you become your own leader, you reclaim the power that most people give away without even realizing it. It's tempting to follow trends, to do what's popular, to make choices that fit in with the people around you. But fitting in is the enemy of standing out. If your goal is to rise, to build something meaningful, to live on your terms, then you have to be willing to go against the grain. You have to be willing to look odd in the beginning. Because the path to something great rarely looks like the path everyone else is walking. It's quieter, it's harder, it demands more of you, but it also rewards you in ways that nothing else can. Not just with wealth, but with fulfillment, with pride, with freedom. Self-leadership means taking responsibility for your own growth. It means reading when others are sleeping, learning when others are complaining, and taking action when others are waiting for the perfect moment. It's understanding that there will never be a day when everything lines up perfectly, and that waiting for ideal conditions is just another form of procrastination. Leaders don't wait. They move forward with what they have, knowing they'll figure out the rest along the way. And in doing so, they build a kind of confidence that no one can give them and no one can take away. Leading yourself means choosing discipline over emotion. There will be days you don't feel motivated. There will be moments when fear whispers in your ear and tells you to back down. But leaders don't take orders from fear. They recognize it, but they don't obey it. They make decisions based on values, not moods. They do what's right for their future, not what feels easy in the moment. And that's what separates them from the crowd. While most people are waiting to feel ready, waiting to be told what to do next, real leaders are already taking the next step. You have a choice every day, to be led or to lead, to follow the distractions or to focus on your vision, to wait for someone to believe in you or to believe in yourself so deeply that others eventually follow. The people who change their lives, and often the lives of others, are not the loudest. They are the clearest. Clear on who they are, where they're going, and what they will no longer tolerate. They don't need a map. They just need the next step and the belief that they can take it. And when they do, everything begins to shift.